Our teams have continued the search and recovery as we work as hard as ever on the collapse to recover remains and to bring closure to the families who are still waiting. We've now moved over 18 million pounds of concrete and debris, and 892 trucks have come through the site transporting the debris. And although the sun is shining right now, we can anticipate similar weather patterns to what we had yesterday. We'll continue to monitor the weather with our weather service liaison who is embedded on the site to monitor, and of course, if weather causes a pause, we'll have to pause. As you've seen, the heavy rain we've experienced brings its own challenges, and as a result, our Miami-Dade Water and Sewer Department has been very active on the scene, working alongside our fire rescue team. They've been pumping water out of the lower levels of the collapsed site in the afternoon and evening, and this truly shows that this is a whole of government response. We have so many local, state, and federal resources working in close collaboration right here in Surfside, and I'm especially proud of the way in which so many of our county departments have stepped up to support the operation. Through the ongoing search and recovery efforts, our teams have recovered an additional victim. The number of confirmed deaths is now 95. 85 of these victims have been identified, and 85 next of kin have been notified. At this step in the recovery process, we're relying heavily on the work of the medical examiner's office. It's a scientific, methodical process to identify human remains. As we've said, this work is becoming more difficult with the passage of time, and although our teams are working as hard as they can, it takes time. Our Miami-Dade Police Department detectives have continued to make progress on the ongoing audit of the list as we've worked to verify all reports submitted and identify those who have been recovered, and as a result we have some updated numbers to share. 238 people are now accounted for, and 14 people potentially unaccounted for. I want to stress again, as we've done throughout, that this is truly fluid, and we can only account for a missing person who may be deceased once the identification is made, in this case now through the medical examiner's office. And so that list of 14 includes 12 where missing persons reports have been filed with the police department, and 2 other reports that our detectives are continuing to try to verify. The property and evidence section of our police department is also on site. They have been working around the clock as well, and they are ensuring that all recovered personal property and family heirlooms are treated with the utmost respect, with great consideration for faith traditions, and when we recover items of religious significance, we make special note. This is a top priority for our teams and our religious leaders. They are embedded as well on the site. They're an integral part of the process and have been since the beginning. NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, has now collected over 450 samples. They're working closely with our Miami-Dade County GIS team, Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, the Police Department, and the USAR teams, and they are, and with the State Attorney's Office, and they are tracking and tagging all of the pieces that they collect. The Family Assistance Center has served just yesterday 22 additional families, and we have so far supported 213 unique families at the Family Assistance Center. The Small Business Administration has received 77 total applications. That's 30 home loans, 16 business loans, and 31 economic injury loans. And we continue to urge businesses that have had an impact to visit sba.gov/disaster to learn more and apply for relief. So many local businesses have gone above and beyond to help feed the families and the first responders over the past few weeks, And I urge our community to give back to those businesses that have contributed so much by supporting them in their businesses. 20 days after this unthinkable tragedy, I could not be prouder of the extraordinary efforts of our partners at every level. Our local, our state, our federal partners, they've stepped up in so many ways to respond, and they have been the core for the family's recovery. They've continued to provide care to the families and the survivors, and I especially want to thank the men and women of the USAR teams from Miami-Dade, the City of Miami, the City of Miami Beach, Coral Gables, and they have and our state and national and international teams. They have given from their heart and soul, and they have risked their own lives for the search and rescue and search and recovery mission for nearly 3 weeks. We truly are walking among superheroes. I also want to extend my thanks to all of you, members of the media. You've continued to tell this story, and you've done it with compassion, and you've done it with real concern and care. And you've helped to make sure that the stories of those we've lost will never be forgotten. Thank you. Thank you so very much. So God bless all of us, all of you, and keep all of the first responders and the families and survivors in your hearts. Thank you.
Buenos días, aquí estamos en el día 20. En estos últimos 20 días hemos movido más de 18 millones de libras de concreto y escombros, y casi 900 camiones han pasado por el sitio moviendo los escombros. A través de nuestros continuos esfuerzos de búsqueda y recuperación, nuestros equipos recuperaron a una víctima adicional. El número de muertes confirmadas es ahora de 95. 85 de estas víctimas han sido identificadas y 85 familiares notificados. Ahora se contabilizan 238 personas y 14 personas están potencialmente desaparecidas. El Centro de Asistencia de Familia atendió ayer a 22 familias más y hasta ahora ha apoyado a 213 familias únicas. 114 familias han solicitado asistencia individual de FEMA y la Administración de Pequeñas Empresas ha recibido 77 solicitudes en total, 30 préstamos hipotecarios, 16 préstamos comerciales y 31 préstamos para daños económicos. 20 días después de esta impensable tragedia, no podría estar más orgulloso de los extraordinarios esfuerzos de nuestros socios en todos los niveles, local, estatal y federal, que han dado un paso adelante de muchas maneras para responder al desastre y cuidar a las familias y sobrevivientes. Quiero agradecer especialmente a los hombres y mujeres de los equipos USAR de Miami-Dade, Ciudad de Miami, de Miami Beach, Coral Gables, y a todos los grupos de trabajo estatales y equipos internacionales que han dado su corazón y alma a esta misión. Nunca habrá suficiente palabras para agradecerles. También quiero extender mi agradecimiento a todos ustedes, los miembros de las noticias, que han continuado contando esta historia con el mundo y asegurándose que las historias de todos que hemos perdido nunca se olviden. Que Dios los bendiga y mantenga a todos los socorristas, las familias, los sobrevivientes y todos ustedes en su corazón. Gracias.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And now Surfside Mayor Charles Burkett.
Good morning, everybody. As the recovery process moves forward towards completion, each missing family member is hopefully located, identified, and reunited with their families. We are now turning our focus on supporting and helping the victims and families restart their lives. To that end, I want to share a little each day with you about the wide range of services that we have put in place to make that happen. For example, American Airlines and the United Way are working together to fly families to and from Surfside at no cost to those families. They are also flying the recovered deceased family members back to their hometowns for burial if requested. The other critical task we are undertaking is to find out why this building collapsed. Knowing why the collapse occurred has huge implications for all of our aging structures in Surfside and beyond, especially those on the ocean where this disaster happened. Surfside is working with county officials to arrange for access to the site, which has been declared a crime scene, so our expert engineer who worked on the Pentagon after the 9/11 attacks can gain access as soon as possible to the site to conduct our investigation on why this building suddenly and without notice collapsed. This will also allow us to properly diagnose and uncover known and unknown issues at the other oceanfront properties, most especially including the collapsed tower's sister building, the Champlain Towers North. While we wait for the crime scene investigation to conclude and get the green light to access the collapse site, we are spending most of our time now poring over the North's plans and doing forensic studies on the many samples and data that we have obtained from that property. On another front, Mary Snow, who is heading up the donation site for Surfside families, supportsurfside.org, she's helped direct me to those who are helping to set up a site for charitable donations for our businesses in town who have also suffered almost total losses during this business during this disaster, but who have at the same time doubled down and given generously towards the effort. Regarding FEMA, it's important to note that each of our affected families, if eligible, may receive rental assistance, help buying new furniture, and a grant of up to $36,000 to help rebuild their lives. So far, 4 families have received this assistance. It's important to remember, however, that if the families do have insurance, which covers the things I just outlined, FEMA will refer them to the Small Business Administration for help regarding the above-mentioned issues. Lastly, since this is likely our last regular press conference, I want to publicly thank the following indispensable leaders who have done so much for the victims of this disaster and the residents of Surfside. Thank you, President Biden, Senators Rubio and Scott, Governor DeSantis, Lieutenant Governor Nunez, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Senator Pizzo, and of course, our dedicated and compassionate County Mayor Cava, who has been here every single day leading this effort with diligence, professionalism, and poise. I'd be remiss not to mention our outstanding town manager, Andy Hyatt, and our police chief, Julio Hierro. Lastly, this operation would not run without the professionalism and dedication of our police director, Freddie Ramirez, Chief Kaminsky, Assistant Chief Jadala, and all of the dedicated search and rescue members out on that pile, pulling people out. Surfside is eternally grateful for all the love and assistance that you all have provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Furcat. And from the Florida Division of Emergency Management, Director Kevin Guthrie.
Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to announce that today we are going to open up a donor portal where donors can come and let us know about themselves so that we can establish the first ever, that we believe in the country, connection portal between individuals that have unmet needs and those that are willing to help those individuals with unmet needs. So this would be where FEMA cannot assist, or the charitable organizations that are already on the ground may not be able to assist. This is designed to go above and beyond, again, to our knowledge, the first in the country, led by the state of Florida, Governor DeSantis, Lieutenant Governor Nunez, and the Florida Division of Emergency Management to make these connections. We are asking individuals that are donors that have not been identified already, or those that have been identified, to go to surfsideassistance.com, surfsideassistance.com, and register as a donor. We are targeting individuals that have the ability and the means to donate more than $5,000. If it is less than $5,000, we would encourage people on the same website to click on one of the links of the organizations that are already responding here and are working in this environment. I want to, again, as Surfside Mayor Burkett said, I want to take the opportunity to thank the men and women standing behind me and the men and women of the State Emergency Response Team, both in Tallahassee and across the state, that have helped make this response and this recovery a success. We are not going anywhere. We will continue to be here. We will have personnel assigned when this all breaks down. We will still have personnel assigned to the Miami-Dade County Emergency Operations Center, working with Charles Cyril, Frank Rollerson, the mayor, the chiefs, the director, for as long as we need to. I know that FEMA is also going to be going to that same facility, and we will continue to work as one for the recovery of those impacted by this disaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. And to provide Creole translation, Yvonne Morrison.
Salut tout le monde. Opération continue à avancer après une longue période côté que nous étions obligés de camper à cause de la pluie et zéclé. Tout travail ça yo continue à marcher et quantité de monde que nous victimes que nous rencontrons nous joignons yo continue à augmenter. Nous ca compter 83 monde. Nous capable dire sur 94 yo que nous joignent et qui mourir. Là-dedans, il y a 80 que famille nous déjà annoncé ça et on connaît ce qui a passé. Le processus d'identification est plus difficile. Dans le moment que nous avons parlé là, il y a un reste de monde que nous avons besoin toujours. Parce que nous dépendons en pile sur le travail que les médecins légistes ont fait. 222 personnes que nous joignons, nous avons continué à chercher 22 autres qui disparaissent. Pas oublier, chiffre capable de changer à n'importe quel moment. Centre pour bailler assistance à famille, il a servi 207 familles comme ça, dans besoin personnel que vous gagnez. Et tout dépend de chaque famille, de chaque besoin famille ça. Après ça, hier, nous avons lancé un nouveau site internet pour les familles capables de joindre assistance financière. Et puis tout, site ça, il rend plus facile pour les capables appliquer pour ça que vous avez besoin. Tout dépend de ça que vous avez nécessité. Encore, merci.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. And now we're going to open up for questions. Please raise your hand. Go ahead.
A lot of families have come forward asking about what is the future of Mayor Cobb, or maybe you can address this. What is the future of that site there with that many hours? There are some families very concerned about development there. They want this to be addressed.
So we've all been talking about what could or should happen on this site. There is a court receiver, there is a court process, and I believe the judge had said it was too early to have that discussion, but nonetheless, we've started to talk about the fact that we definitely need a memorial. We must have some sort of memorial. Exactly where it will be is going to be determined, and whether some or all of that site could be preserved, that will be determined in the future. Todos nosotros tenemos ganas de tener una área específicamente para conmemorar y nunca olvidar lo que ha pasado aquí. Es temprano decir exactamente qué podemos hacer. Por ejemplo, tenemos un juicio y el juez ha dicho que es temprano hablar de los detalles, pero estamos hablando ya de cómo podemos conseguir un sitio para el futuro y vamos a seguir adelante con planes.
Can I add to that a little bit, Mayor?
Yeah.
We've also been meeting with the families to understand what's going on, and I think we all agree that we want the families to tell us what they want to see. And some of what the families have said are, exactly what the mayor just outlined. Some of the families also want to go back and live there again. They want the building rebuilt on a portion of the site. They acknowledge that a percentage of that site is a holy site, as I've said before, but they haven't given up on their home. And I think that this is something that we will also be looking at, because obviously our job here is to make the families whole. Our job is to try to put them back in a place where they can restart their lives. And I think that we're all open to all these ideas, and those discussions are starting to bubble up to the top. So I'm looking forward to having those discussions, as I'm sure the mayor is.
Actually, if you don't mind, a couple of questions. The first has to do with, I'm a journalist, so I'm not very good at math. So yesterday, the number of victims, or accounted for, were 22. Today it's 14, recovered one body. What explains that discrepancy? And also, because there are 10 people still not ID, is that 10 counted in the 14, or how's the math?
Freddie is going to answer this question. Okay.
Yes, good morning. As of right now, we have 94 family members that are deceased. We have identified 85. Our detectives have gone through all the manifests, all the proper documentation. We've written missing person reports, but until that additional 10 is identified, we really won't know what the final number will be. We don't know about some of those call-ins that were made that may not be real people, that people called third party, and there was no way to follow up on them. So we still had to count them in, because any family member that calls, given that kind of information, it was prudent for us to document that. As we start identifying remains, and as the numbers start leveling off, we'll have a number, but it's going to take some time.
So, Director, is that 10 in the 14?
I'm sorry? Yeah, no, I'm sorry?
Is that 10 in the 14 then?
Yeah, so, well, yeah, you got to take into account the 10, there's 85 that we've identified. There's 95 family members that we covered at this time, so that we'll have to see as they get identified.
Is that there are 4 bodies.
There could be potentially 4 unaccounted for, but we won't know till the ME does what they do, because we're at the scientific phase right now because of the condition of the family members. It's going to take a while for the medical examiner to start sorting out and making identifications, and at a later date we'll know where exactly we're at. But as you've noticed through the whole process, the numbers have begun to level off, which is pretty much consistent with what we've been dealing with.
And the other question, if I might.
Sure.
The North Tower. Is it safe enough for people to go back, or is it going to be torn down too?
Well, that would
well,
be...
I mean, for anyone there.
Yeah. Director.
Wait.
Oh, okay. Well, you want? Well, first I guess I got to do what I said in Spanish real quick, and then we'll have. Sorry, man. Okay. Who was it asked in Spanish? I'm sorry. Okay. Sí, los números que han fallecido son 95. Lo que hemos identificado es 85. Tenemos ahora 14 personas que están missing. So, entre esos números son los números que estamos todavía en el proceso de identificar, y también estamos viendo los adicionales números que no han llamado para atrás. Pues, tú sabes, hicieron la llamada primero, pero nunca han llamado para atrás. No hay evidencia de esa persona estar aquí, pero todavía tenemos que contar ese número. Cuando los números se ponen igual, entonces sabemos a dónde estamos. Y también necesitamos que el medical examiner está procesando las víctimas. Y ahora las condiciones de las víctimas son diferentes. Es más, se depende mucho en ciencia para identificarlo. Pero si tú notas, por este proceso los números han estado secándose. So, puede ser que va a haber un momento que descubrimos que esa gente no existieran ahí, los 4. O puede ser que está, pero todavía no sabemos hasta que terminamos recuperando todas las víctimas y que el proceso científico se hace también con el medical examiner.
O sea que eso lo van a saber, o sea que eso lo van a saber una vez que limpien todo el terreno, una vez que retiren el último toque, ¿no?
Y not only
Bueno,
that,
no, pero todavía tenemos restos humanos también que hay que procesar también, que no sabemos. Cuando limpian la área todavía no sabemos, porque el proceso del medical examiner que tiene que hacer su trabajo haciendo el análisis de los restos humanos que tenemos también.
Por lo que entiendo,
there was a...
por lo que entiendo, lo que están encontrando ahora son restos humanos, y quizás la condición no es como la de los primeros días. Para la religión judía es muy importante enterrar los cuerpos enteros. Una vez que ustedes identifican un resto, pueden darle la oportunidad a los familiares de encontrar el resto de la otra parte del cuerpo para que ellos puedan Bueno, todos quieren tener todo de sus amantes que puedan y tenemos que esperar para saber exactamente para los restos humanos, para mirar todo que tenemos y para finalizar y dar una ciega a las familias. Excuse me, we had another question over here. I heard your question. So the North Tower has not been evacuated. Some initial review was made and determined that there was no need for mandatory. There was a voluntary evacuation. The town of Surfside has taken the initiative to continue their analysis, and they would, at that time, if there were any need to make any changes, they would. You know, let me emphasize here, our Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Department has been responsible for our COVID response. So we are very much on top of the testing, the vaccination, and actually our numbers are now that we're above 75% of those 12 and over vaccinated in our community, which is a tremendous milestone. So we have embedded here all of those who have the testing capacity. As soon as we learned of the chairman and his staff person's positivity, we tested everybody who'd been in vicinity, and everybody has come back negative.
Question. Mr. Burkett, I appreciate it. Two quick questions. You did make note that this is the last news conference, and that would be speaking collectively for everybody. And the second question is, some folks in that North Tower feel as if you are instilling fear with respect to the structural integrity of the building. Could you speak to the fact that Mr. Kilsheimer's looked at the building, they had other structural engineers look at the building, and could you respond to their concerns that all you're doing is instilling fear?
To the press conference question, I think that it's the last regular, but I believe the mayor said that if need be.
Yeah, I mean, just as to the press conference, we'll be staying in touch with you, we'll be issuing releases, and if there's a need for an additional one, we'll of course advise you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think it's instilling fear. What I think it is it's in an abundance of caution that given the building was built by the same developer at the same time, mostly with the same plans, probably with the same contractor, probably with the same materials, and given we don't know why the first building fell down, and we probably won't know that for a little while because we're about to have the site cleared. We're going to get all the victims out and reunite them with their family. That's job one. But then job two is obviously we've got a crime scene. We're going to process the information at that crime scene, and then I think that we'll be able to get in there and start doing our forensic testing. Because I believe that really the problem was not above ground. I believe the problem was below ground. And I think, but that may or may not be correct. But listen, we're not taking chances on people's lives in this town. So we've given them the option. We're telling them everything we know. Our structural engineer has said to the condominium board that he would allow his children to live in there, given what he knows now. So I don't know that that doesn't line up with fear mongering. I think what we're trying to do is be as transparent as possible, and we will continue to provide the information as soon as we get it.
Despite the assessment from Mr. Kilsheimer, who said that he would live in there with his family, there's still a concern for the structural integrity of the building?
Well, we're looking at it. I mean, thus far, as a matter of fact, we've taken the core samples, we've done the LiDAR, we've done the ground penetrating radar, we're looking at the content of steel, we're looking at how those plans line up, how the building lines up with what the plans say. Okay, so we're looking at all of that, and he's the guy to do it. He's the guy that did 9/11, he's the guy that did the FIU bridge, he's the guy to do it, believe me. So he's looking at it. Thus far, he hasn't seen anything that would lead him to believe that he couldn't stay in that building himself, but he's also said that if he finds something, he will immediately put that word out.
And last two questions right here, and then
I have a question for qualified fire chief. The question regards the recovery team's been very meticulous with the recovery efforts, getting debris and remote evidence and the remains. I wonder how did you know to take that approach, and does that approach change ever since, say, 9/11?
Well, our primary approach from our task force members, first responders, is the recovery efforts. We have been, guided with NIST as well as, our local authorities in regards to certain debris that we come across that's marked. Obviously, they're flying with drones and looking at aspects as well. So things that they see, we mark and are very meticulous in removing, that component, that debris.
Has that changed much, in recent years, the bad approach to recovery? There was some criticism in 9/11 that some of the remains were not identified, people were not identified.
In regards, again, of the recovery portion, absolutely. We're very methodical with our process, what we're doing. Our primary goal now is to have closure for the families and try to find, our loved ones. So we're definitely very methodical with that process and every attempt to locate, their remains.
Final question.
Also, potentially for the team, are there more cars in the rubble pile? If so, is it still a concern for more fire safe parking in the cars?
Well, we definitely have suppression capabilities. Our fire trucks and equipments have been around with hose lines and different products just in case we do need to suppress any fire. So definitely a concern. We've been dewatering over the past 24 hours in the lower levels, and that's a constant concern and delay with the contaminants that's in there. Working hand in hand with our water sewer department in dewatering and taking the contaminants off site and treating it the proper way. In regards to overall vehicles, the majority have been removed. We've been doing that throughout the past 12 to 24 hour operational period. So we'll just have to continue to monitor those efforts as well.
Thank you, everyone. And as previously stated,
Entonces, la pregunta sería sobre los vehículos que estamos encontrando. Bueno, debido a la lluvia torrencial que hemos tenido estos últimos días, hemos tenido bastante agua acumulada en la parte baja del garaje donde encontramos varios de estos vehículos. Estamos utilizando varias bombas para sacar el agua y secarla, de esta manera poder remover estos vehículos, los cuales estaban todavía en esa área del garaje, y estos vehículos ya los han transportado y han sido sacados de esta área para procesar. Hubo inundación, por eso estamos utilizando estas bombas de agua para sacar el agua y secar esa área, y de esta manera poder sacar los vehículos que estaban dentro de esa área del garaje.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And as previously stated, this will be the last in-person conference. We will be sending updates via social media as well as our emails. If there is a need for another press conference, we will definitely let you all know with ample time. Okay? Thank you, everyone.